Plateau State was hit by armed men who killed not less than 180 people, leaving others injured. Now, there's more for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
Nigeria has grappled with a persistent and complex challenge, internal conflict, particularly prevalent in the northern and southeastern regions. The once prosperous haven of hospitality, Plateau State in north-central Nigeria, has witnessed its share of distressing tragedies. The wounds inflicted by the recent attack in Bokos and Berikin-Ladi local government areas are fresh and profound. Over 160 residents were murdered and 300 individuals wounded and displaced by armed assailants. Moreover, a threat is looming over Pushit community in Mangu serves, where the residents have received letters by miscreants who've promised yet another bloodletting spree. While concerted efforts, including presidential directives and special military operations, have sought to stem this tide of violence, the vicious cycle of attacks persists unabated. Perpetrators remain unidentified. However, the haunting question remains: how long will this cycle of violence endure? Will there ever be a dawn of enduring peace and tranquility for the people of Plateau State and, by extension, Nigeria? How can the government navigate these issues effectively? What measures can be employed to curb these relentless attacks and offer enduring hope and lasting peace to those living in the shadow of fear and uncertainty?
And of course, joining me to discuss this very, very unfortunate turn of events is George Brown, security expert, joining from Rivers State, and also Dennis Amakri, security expert, joining from the United States, but precisely Texas. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Merry Christmas.
Yes, I mean, really, really very unfortunate, attack in Plateau State. And I mean, this is not the first time we are hearing of attacks like this. You know, they just come in as a flash, and it's been discussed, it's looked into, and it seems like everything is normal, and then the attacks happen again. Now, these particular attacks have left fears in the hearts of residents. What exactly is going on? I'd like to start off with you, Dennis.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, it is very, very sad that every December, at the last week or early January, we have to come out and start talking about, this kind of attacks that has happened. And it has been going on every year. And that is starting from 2009, 14 or 15 years, ago, every year, the attack has been going on. And what bothers me most is that the inability to arrest, any of the culprits or deal with them, prosecute them, and send them to jail. When it happens, you see our political leaders, will come and, of course, commiserate with the people. The president will come out and tell you about it will never happen again, and then we have to arrest those people. And that's the circle, that vicious circle goes on and on. Now, the important thing here is to break that circle. We cannot continue like this. These are lives, and it is not a situation where police will say it's only 90 people that died and the community is saying it's 150 and stuff like that. Even if it is one person, one is very, very important because these are Nigerians. And I think we should pay more attention to this kind of problem that is facing us on a yearly basis.
All right, I'd like to come to you, Brown, but before I direct the same question to you, I mean, this particular story, I would also say, personally, I've had experiences. I did my National Youth Service Corps in Plateau State. That's at 2009/2010. And I witnessed, one of these major attacks. I remember waking up, it was a Sunday morning, We slept in that particular, what I call it, Copper's Lodge then. But we didn't sleep in that same place that night because the attack happened really spontaneous. And for almost, what I call it, 3 months, everything was in disarray. I remember running for my life. For those who know Bauchi Ring Road very well, it's a long stretch. You could count almost 10 roadblocks set up by community people. And it was a situation of you either get killed or you kill someone. It was that bad. And for strangers like us, who came out to serve our fatherland, who did not understand the local language, it was a terrible conundrum. So I just want to know what exactly is going on. I would like to, of course, direct it to you, Brown.
First of all, I would like to commiserate with the people on the plateau and say that we commiserate with them. We deeply feel for this carnage that just happened there, though it's becoming one too many. And like Sir Dennis just said, it's becoming a regular occurrence that the government seem not to have any particular thing that they need to do or they have to do to stem this ugly tide that has become a reoccurring annual ritual of shedding the lives and blood of people on the plateau. And of course, the government just issuing tear statements here and there, commiserating with the people and stating that they vow that such will never happen again. And it continues to go on unabated. I think in the past 6 months or so, the plateau has been a little bit calm. And from sources, there were certain things that was done to make the place to be a little bit calm. And there was a change in the security architecture of that area that has exposed the flanks, and this has happened again in this period of Christmas, because it happens always within this Yuletide season. So I think they need to go back and revisit or reinvite the detachment that was managing the security architecture of those hotspots in Plateau State to ensure that the place normalcy is restored and that people are restored back to their normal lives. Because what we are seeing is a situation whereby these marauders come in, clear the place. After clearing the place, they neutralize or they kill a lot of people, and after killing these natives, of course, the people will run away and abandon their homes and villages and their homestead, abandon their farms. And after 4, 5, 6 weeks, you see a set of people come in and take over those places and occupy those places and start living there. And these people are neither settlers nor natives, but criminals. They're terrorists, and they should be addressed as such. They are terrorists. And the government goes back as though nothing happened.
I would still like to stay with you, of course, that's George. Now, let's consider the root cause of some of these attacks. Some will say it's political, some will say, it's religious. There's also a tribal, sentiment to it. While some will say it's even personal grievance. I remember, I'm sorry, I would make a lot of reference to personal experiences too, where I used to know back then a 19-year-old boy by the name of Michael. Michael was one of those boys that, we would send on, just small errands, and give him tips as co members. And when this attack happened on this particular day, Michael, was armed with an axe. Eyes were very red, and he called us by, he knows our names individually. On that particular day, he called us by our generic name. He said, Government Pekin, what are you doing here? And when I asked, why are you not running? He said that this fight for him is personal. Right? Because he has lost friends in previous attacks, and it looks like there is no justice. So what do you think is actually the root cause of this recurrent attacks? Michael, George, I'd like you to pick up, and then, of course, I'll move to Dennis for his own take.
Okay, from the historical perspective, it's basically ethnic and religious, but it has turned into a dimension that we are beginning to observe is economic. So it's not only the religious and the ethnic dimension to it, settlers against natives or indigenes as they call them, but it's becoming economic because this large swath of land where people are cleared off, it's like turning to the case of what you have in Zamfara, Kebbi, and Niger State, which is purely economic. There are minerals that are in those areas, as we've received reports, and a lot of things are going on in the background to ensure that these locations or villages are cleared off of inhabitants to make way for this conflict mineral merchants to come in and start harnessing or exploiting those minerals. So it is not just the historical aspect of it being ethnic and tribal and religious, but it is now economic, because in those areas, yes, they are predominantly of a certain tribe and religion, which is Christianity. You also have some animists, and of course, you have some indigenous Muslims that are from those places. And those indigenous Muslims are also caught in. They are caught in between this conflict. But however, it is very sad to say that it's economic.
I'd like to know your take on the root cause, Dennis. What do you consider the root cause of this trend of attacks we see on the plateau?
Okay, you see, the root causes are many, but the original one, just like Brown said, the original one is between herders and farmers. Farmers, herders looking for more green pastures, and then, of course, water. And then the farmers, of course, want to, irrigate their farms and stuff like that. So you find out that these clashes, and after they finish the clash, they usually come around and then occupy the area. And then they start to live there. So it is something like somebody trying to claim the environment which he is a stranger to. But all the same, when you look at it, you find out that it's like there is no government. It's like there is no government, because these guys come there, they kill people, they butcher all kinds of people, women and children, and then they run away.
But the government seems to have made quite a couple of efforts, particularly recently, in terms of being abreast, being on ground, and all of that. Is it that one would say they're a bit overwhelmed?
I don't know if the government is overwhelmed, but just like the Plateau State governor said, he said he felt that there is no political will to stop this. That means there's complicity somewhere, So the governor is crying out that there's supposed to be political will of dealing with this, because this cannot continue every year and out.
Okay, in terms of political will, exactly. If at all, what might he be referring to?
He can be referring to the government,
but
the federal
the
government. Yeah. Huh?
But it's the
the federal government.
Oh, the federal government.
Yeah, okay. Because let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's go back and then check. Who are these people? Like before, it was herders and farmers, right? But now we have got bandits in the mix, and these bandits are itinerant. They are actually foreigners. They come into Nigeria. I don't know whether they were brought in or they came in by themselves, but they've been occupying the ungoverned spaces in Zamfara, Kaduna, and Niger State. And these guys are hanging around there. Now, before they used to kidnap people for ransom, but what they are doing now is that they go ahead and, go and raid villages, kill people, take some people hostage, and then, of course, go away. The impunity with which they are doing this is what we should address. These bandits have been hanging around in those ungoverned spaces, and nobody has been able to get them out. The Kaduna State governor, the former Kaduna State governor, even was saying that they should go there and carpet bomb them. Remember that some weeks ago, the military, the Nigerian army, was operating some drones, some predator drones, and they mistakenly thought that those were bandits, and they killed them, and a lot of people died, natives. And then, of course, you know what happened. Many people come out to condemn it. Some people are saying, let's go and have investigation. The people should be brought to book and stuff like that. But they've forgotten that these are the same military guys that have been sacrificing their lives to save this country, to keep this country safe. So we have to learn on how to appreciate our military and security forces when things like this happen. Because you see, these bandits are going around using the natives as human shield. So it's kind of complicated.
Sorry, talking about tactics of some of these invaders. For instance, a recent update has it that they have threatened fresh attacks on the Pushit community in Plateau State on Friday. Barely 4 days, that's today, barely 4 days after, about 195 persons were killed in 17 communities across the same state. Now, from a very personal experience, I remember back then, they will tell you that Fridays were usually volatile because certain flash attacks usually happen then. And it looks like these Maroonders were aware, and so they moved it to Sunday. And then from Sunday, when they saw that people were going to churches with guns, right? People would go to church fully armed. Even preachers too would go to places of worship, carrying rifles and all of that. They decided to move it to interlands, right? Places where they know that before the government could respond, it would take a while. And then when they saw, okay, the government has set up, certain parameters to sort of clip their activities, they now started making it early morning attacks. So the question is this, is it that the government, in terms of tactics, in terms of intelligence, are not able to catch up with these people?
It's not a matter of tactics or, intelligence. They have enough intelligence. They know, you've been reeling out intelligence, of what the message that they've sent to villagers. And the security agencies are very much aware, But again, like I said some time ago, the military, I hope that they are not trying to be lukewarm in their response because of what happened in Kaduna, and everybody was blaming the military. This is our country, and the military is the people that have stuck out their head. When people are enjoying their Christmas, these are the same military people who are in trenches, and we should appreciate them. We should thank them for their services. If there's a mistake, it's a mistake. But we continue to, harass them and stuff like that. And you find out that when the terrain is bad, or when that morale of going out there to do what they have to do sometimes slows down, and we should take note of that seriously.
All right, I would like to know, of course, your opinion on this, George. In terms of the tactics some of these attackers use, they seem to evolve almost at light speed. Is it that the security apparatus are not able to catch up?
Okay, the security agencies are very much in the know. They are aware. They have regular security updates and reports that, Dennis just mentioned, that you are even reading out. They are aware, they are informed, they have this inter-services sharing of gainful information, and and this specific security and reports or movements of certain kind of characters or individuals or people groups around certain areas. The security operatives are aware. However, over time, the security operatives and of course the government has not been able to allow the security operatives to actually go out and get the job done. Because of course, if the security agencies decide to go out to get the job done, there is always the possibility for unsurgical strikes that will lead to some form of collateral damage, like we witnessed in the Bilingwari area in Kaduna. So what is happening in the plateau is that it is being done with impunity. The government is aware. So it's not just about the security operatives. The security operatives will always share this gainful information, even with the government, to tell the government that give them the brief, to tell the government that this are the reports that are being received. These are the movements that are being noticed in certain places. And it's left for the government to take proactive measures by forming linkages that will ensure that these things are nipped in the bud. Like we experienced 2 days ago, or 3 days after the attacks, 4 days after the attacks, where notices were issued to certain communities that they were going to be attacked. And actually, in some of these communities, they were not just mere information or threats. They actually made attempts in attacking these communities, but they were repelled. So it means that the security operatives, of course, have shared such information with the relevant governmental agencies that have oversight over the security operatives, and nothing was done. I also am aware that a private military contractor was operating in that area, in that area of responsibility. And that has brought some level of sanity on the plateau in the last 6 to 8 months. But I don't know why that private military contracting firm has been withdrawn from that place. So this is what we are getting by removing that private military contractor. Because actually, our security as competent as they are, our security operatives are also overstretched. Our security operatives are fatigued, so to speak.
All right.
So there is need to continue to embed
George,
these private military contractors, and of course,
all right, we might just pick up from there, George. It looks like we have an interference from your end a bit, but let's go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we would consider the approach the government and also community have adopted so far in finding a lasting solution to this very chaotic problem. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Secure the Continent, and we have been looking at the deadly attack on residents of Plateau State. We still have on the show George Brown, security expert, who is joining from Rivers State, and Dennis Amakri, security expert, joining from Texas, the United States. Thank you so much for your time, and also for, of course, hanging in, gentlemen. Thank you. All right. Okay, I would like to, of course, start off with you, Dennis, or continue with you. Let's look at some of the efforts and the approach of the government and communities to in handling these issues so far. How productive will you say these approaches and efforts have been?
You see, when I evaluate or analyze what that is happening there, I kind of give kudos to the military anyway, and of course the security agencies. They are cooperating among themselves and then doing the best at the minimum, equipment that they have. They are doing their best because the military itself, although they are not well equipped, the police is just not well equipped, because when you look at it, 300,000 plus police for 200 million people, I don't think it's a very, very good ratio, And then besides, you find out that they are not looking at them as priority. When we have this kind of security problem across the country, and we are even deploying soldiers, about 50,000 troops are busy in internal security, which they are not supposed to be. The police is supposed to do that. And we are busy forgetting them and then doing other things, and forgetting that the primary responsibility of government is the security of people and their properties. So these are the things. When you look at it, we've advocated for state police, because you see, if there is police nearer to those places, they could be more effective. Well-trained police force. In Mangu today, or go to Bokos or Barakin Ladi, you have a DPO. Definitely you have a DPO there. But that DPO, I don't think he has up to 5 policemen working for him. So they're not up to 5.
So basically, you're saying that
yes.
Some of the security, agencies there or aspects there are understaffed.
Very understaffed. Very, very understaffed. So in fact, when they are attacked like this, with a lot of the bandits are coming 100s, you see a lot of them 50s in motorcycle. It will be suicide for any 5 policemen to engage them. So that's why I'm saying that the government have to be very, very serious in dealing with this. Do we want to deal with it, or do we want to just go ahead and make political statements? We cannot continue making political statements. Oh, this will not happen again. You'll make sure that it stops. The security agencies are asked to go and get those culprits. We've not had any culprits for 14 years. We've not got any culprit that has been sentenced to, jail term or something like that.
All right.
So we have to do something.
I think I'd like to move to George to know his particular opinion on this, particularly aside, being understaffed in terms of the security apparatus there. What other challenges do security agencies face in securing the people, and also at the community level? We know that there are vigilante groups, in many of these communities that face attacks. In terms of efforts so far, are they doing enough? Has it been productive to some extent? What can be done better?
Okay, like I said initially, our military is overstretched, and our military, unfortunately, is engaged in IS operations all over the country, which is a misnomer. They are overstretched, they are fatigued, and of course, the manpower it isn't enough. The police, like Dennis said, is inadequate, and that is correct. And of course, you also have this other arm-bearing services like the civil defense and the Air Force. And of course, you have the component of some naval SB, special forces naval personnel that are also embedded in this IS operations that are going on in the plateau, on the plateau. However, the complementary efforts that the community vigilante groups are or role are playing is limited, very, very limited. The military at some point, some years ago, decided to bring in the services or engage in the services of private military contractors to come and also take part in complementing the operations and activities of the other services. But they were withdrawn from that area, and I think it is because of that withdrawal, to a relative extent, we can infer that the flanks were exposed, and this terrorist came in. Of course, the government is aware that the measurement of the successes of the private military contractors is clear. So why should the government withdraw the services of those private military contractors that were able to restore some level of sanity and peace? It became an enforced peace on the plateau, and the plateau became peaceful. So why take them off? Why get them out of the way when the objective has not been met? So once the strategic objective has not been met in that area of engagement, in that theater, then you have to continue to keep those people so that they'll continue doing mock-up operations after the ground has been secured. But what we're seeing today is there's some semblance of complicity, and of course wrapped in laid backwardness by the government. And that is why these people just come in roughshod, do what they want to do, get away with it. After a while, they get people that come and occupy the place. And these people are not Nigerians, from what we're beginning to understand. They're not Nigerians. So we don't need to even go into of our porous borders. No, we don't need to go to that. The Sahel by itself is doing well for herself. The AES states, that Sahel states of those of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, they've been able to wager the jihadists in the Sahel. And of course, we know that as the jihadists have been wagered at the Sahel, where do they run to? They can't get into Cameroon, they can't get into Chad, they've been chased away from Niger, so they will get into Nigeria.
Well, you said many of this, well, I call it, of course, Marundas right now are not Nigerians.
Yes.
Okay.
They are not Nigerians.
Okay. I mean, we would have loved, with some sort of evidence, but why such assertion?
Okay.
Can I come in here? Can I come in?
And after doing videos.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we should listen to Dennis, and then we'll take your opinion on it, George. Dennis.
Okay. From all kinds of indications, those people are not Nigerians. Even for those that have been arrested before, they don't even speak the Nigerian Fulani language. They are French speaking. So most likely they are from either Burkina Faso, Mali, or somewhere else.
The reason why I'm asking this is because if on the issue of Plateau State, for instance, some will tell you that there's the native tribe, and then, some of the Birom is, for instance, quite popular, native tribe there. And then they will tell you, an average Birom might say, oh, please don't categorize me as an Awusa person, simply because in the past, they have had issues with them, and many of them consider them, quote and unquote, maybe the enemy. This is just a context anyway, right? So you said many of them are French speaking, but some of these attacks that have happened, many of the attackers, according to some that witnessed, they said they were speaking, some said the Awusa language, for instance. So I'm trying to just understand the aspect of them not being Nigerians. Please, you might continue from there, Dennis.
Yeah, you don't have to. The Hausa language is spoken across the Sahel.
I'm just giving an illustration. I'm not saying in this context.
I'm just going to give you nitty-gritty about this. The Hausa language is spoken from Senegal all the way down to Congo, and there are dialects, there are differences of it that exist. And then, of course, the Fulanese, who are either cattle herders are also part of that. But when you talk to them, the Nigerian Fulanese are, the Fulani they speak is different. And the one, of course, from West Africa sub-region, they are mainly Fulfulde speaking people. And then, of course, they speak French as we speak English.
Mm-hmm.
Because you find out that the country they are coming from is a French-speaking country, And then, of course, these particular people, if you remember, President Buhari had always asked for them to leave. President Buhari has always asked them to leave. I think that was when we should have asked him, where are they leaving to? If they are not Nigerians, where did they come from? I think that president will be able to give us some answers.
Mm.
The same thing with the governor of Kaduna State. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that are indicators for you to know that some of these people are actually from foreign countries and they've been operating in this place.
All right, I would like to you to pick up, George. You were trying to shed more light on it.
Okay, in addition to what Dennis said, Hausa language is not only spoken from the west coast of Africa, beginning from Senegal down to the Congo, but actually from parts of Mauritania up to Sudan. There are Hausa communities that are hundreds of years, over 100-year-old Hausa-based communities in Sudan. Okay, because once you get off Sudan, you're in Chad, and once you're off Chad, you're in Nigeria. So the Hausas, the Hausas are the speaking community are also in Sudan. But however, the Fulanis, as we call them, their language is Fulfulde, is widely spoken all over West Africa. Okay, and the difference in the Fulani Fulfulde language is in the dialect, the dialectics. That is what makes the difference. However, in every country in the west coast of Africa, the Fulanis are in the minority. Don't forget the Central African Republic, they were routed out, right? They were routed out from the Central African Republic, and they seem to be a homeless a group of people from West Africa down to Central Africa region and parts of East Africa. So they've been searching for a homeland. And from all intents and purpose, from what we're seeing, is like Nigeria is where they intend to make home. So they are all migrating towards Nigeria to make Nigeria home, because the former president is Fulani. Some politicians and some former state governors and even serving governors came out openly to say that the Fulanis are their kith and kin that are in various parts are displaced, and they are being persecuted everywhere, that they just have to come back home. So you need to displace indigenous or native people in these areas where you have water, access to water and greenery.
Okay.
To feed their cattle.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just need to come in here because we're pressed for time. Now, let's look at some of the approaches that have been adopted or that has been suggested as maybe a way out of this, what I call it, very ugly trend. Now, some have actually suggested that maybe what was adopted in South Africa, the reconciliation method, where people, are called together to people that have been affected and then, or, attacked, and then a sort of forgiveness stroke mediation, what I call it, arrangement is made. Because for many people that have been affected, sorry?
Truth and reconciliation, you mean?
Yes. So, because for many that have been affected, right, they will tell you that this is even beyond political, religious, or tribal. It's now personal. And so for every opportunity like this that comes up, they see it as an avenue to revenge. Some might even organize, flash attacks in retaliation. So what do you think as of this method as an approach to finding a lasting solution? I'd like to start with you, Dennis.
Okay. Now, you see, there are many resolution methods that could be used. We can take the model from South Africa, and where we say, okay, reconciliation, everybody agrees, and then we reconcile. But at the same time, there are also things that the government itself can do. And that is also, we're talking about state police. We need to put police in those local areas. There should be the presence of law enforcement in the local areas, a strong one, so that if anything happens, they should be able to handle it instead of people, excuse me, instead of people running helter-skelter. So that is very, very important. Presence of government to occupy those ungoverned spaces is very, very important. And then, of course, reconciliation. I've been personally involved in a lot of reconciliation between herders and farmers many, many years ago in states like Taraba. And then, of course, we've had some measure of sanity. But at the same time, as population increases, they have all these problems coming back again. So you see, like as I said earlier, we need government strong initiative to be there. Government should be there to deal with this. It is not making political statements. Because if you are there, you set up some kind of committees or whatever that will enforce, bring all the leaders together and sign, certain kinds of documents to make sure that we don't run into this problem again, or minimize it to the barest minimum. Otherwise, it will continue.
All right. I would like to know George's take on this, but I would also add a bit of extra to it. Do you also think that the people should be allowed to carry arms legally to protect themselves?
I don't believe that people should be allowed to carry arms because I live in the United States here, and I can tell you, I can walk out of here, go to a gun shop and buy, an AR-17. That's an automatic gun, better than AK-47. They just want to know that I don't have a criminal record, and they will sell it to me. And then, of course, some of these small boys will go ahead and go to a shopping mall and start shooting. Schools, they go to schools and shoot anybody they like. That is not where we want to be. All right. The best thing is to train the people who are trained in arms management to deal with it.
All right.
Don't go and start giving it to civilians that might even shoot themselves.
All right. Let's hear George.
Okay. For me, based on what we have been seeing around flashpoints in this country, from the east to the middle belt down to the northwest and the northeast, we saw the progress that the civilian JTF made fighting alongside or providing support to the Nigerian military, right? And the successes that was recorded in the northeast, you cannot take away or discountenance the efforts of the civilian JTF as they were called. Now, of course, there is need for community policing to fill up those ungoverned spaces. And I think lately the police authorities started recruiting supernumerary police men or police officers into the service. But of course, they are not arm-bearing people, right? They're not arm-bearing personnel. Therefore, I want to suggest, or I want to advocate, that the security of people in every part of this country is supposed to be the responsibility of everybody in that community. Some caliber of weapons are supposed to be licensed, to be handled by trained members of vigilantes to serve as some form of deterrence and to serve as some form of pushback. Not, of course, automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons, no, but some caliber of weapons, light weapons, that should be handed over to trained people that can be called vigilantes. Now, when the enemy or the aggressor knows that based on reconnaissance, he is going to be pushed back, he will reconsider before engaging. But when you know that you can just walk roughshod into the area, do your thing, and walk away and get away with it, you will always continue to come back, and the government will continue making, or politicians in this case, will continue issuing political statements, and the carnage will continue, the bloodshed will continue. So I am of the opinion, and I want to advocate that these neighborhood watches should be organized by the police and given some form of training, and some light caliber weapons should be allowed. They should be allowed to carry these light weapons, because that will also balance the spread of force and the spread of firepower. I think Nigeria.
All right, George.
That point, because if we don't do that, people will continue to be slaughtered.
All right, George. Your point is well, of course, taken and noted, but we are pressed for time and we need to go. George Brown, security expert, of course, from Rivers State, Nigeria, and Dennis Amakri, all the way from Texas, the United States. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
In advance.
And of course, likewise, same to you too, a prosperous year ahead. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. But before we go, let's leave you with some words from Aristotle. Aristotle actually said, it's not enough to win a war. The most important aspect is to organize the peace, as peace guarantees prosperity and progress. It's an indispensable ingredient. On that note, I say it's a wrap on today's show. Please remember that the opinions of our guests strictly are theirs and not the opinions of News Central. My name is Dakbo Adigboye. Thank you for being an amazing viewer. Bye for now.